Hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Drish, and in today's video, I want to go over my new favorite army setup within a Noob army Tycoon. I think that the meta has been changed quite a bit because a lot of best units happen to be nerfed in the last update. Of course, this is just my own opinion. Let's get right into what I like to use. I like to use 8 elite robot railgunners. If you don't have the elite robot railgunners, you can always go ahead and use these heavy special forces sniper instead. And you can even use the special forces sniper instead as well. Although, in my opinion, both of these are going to be a little bit worse than the elite robot railgunner. Now, I also like to use 8 heavy death soldiers. These are just all around one of the best fast-moving mid-range units in the game. If you don't have the heavy death soldier, you can always use a regular death soldier. You can even just go ahead and use robot soldiers or maybe even the laser soldiers, but I really recommend the heavy death soldier if you have it. Now when it comes to your super noob, my personal preference is the elite engineer, but I know a lot of people like to use the elite juggernaut because it is such a damage sponge. And I know a lot of people like to use the elite poison noob as well because it does a lot of damage to enemies. But for this video, I'm gonna be using the elite engineer, but just know there are other good options out there. So for the vehicles, this might look a little goofy, but I like to use 2 light railgun tanks simply because they're very fast moving. So when you are attacking the center and maybe a lobby full of other players, this is very effective because they can get to the center very quickly, and they still deal about 1200 damage per second, which is very good. Now, you could always still use the heavy railgun tank instead of the light railgun tank. It actually has worse DPS. And in my opinion, it isn't gonna be as effective because it doesn't move quite as fast, so it's not getting to the center and reinforcing your units very quickly. And this next one's gonna sound weird, but I really like to use 2 heavy artillery units because they have very good range. So comboing these with your elite robot railgunners or whatever sniper unit you're using equals a lot of very powerful ranged units. So I always like to include 2 of these in my army. They're just very underrated and very powerful. And then I always like to use a single spawner vehicle because it's always good to have at least one in your army, especially in the center of the map because it's gonna reinforce your army in the center and not make them run all the way from your spawn. Now when it comes to the air vehicles, I don't think it really matters. Personally, I like to use the light laser gunship plane because it does a lot of damage, and most planes just die instantly. So this one will kill a couple units before instantly dying. You can always use the heavy gunship plane. I don't actually think it matters much which one you use. This one is getting more health, so it's gonna be more of a damage sponge rather than just doing a bunch of damage to the enemy. Now when it comes to your ships, I personally like to use all 4 heavy battle carriers because they're basically a better version of the heavy aircraft carrier, in my opinion. They're doing a lot of damage with their cannons, and they also have explosive and gunner drones, which are going to be reinforcing the center of the map, dealing a lot of damage to your enemies. Another ship you can always use is the classic heavy guided missile destroyer because this is just a great ship to fight enemy units that are spawning in from an enemy base. These can oftentimes bridge camp enemy units and definitely destroy a lot of enemy ships. But overall, I like using the heavy battle carrier nowadays. So this is the formation I'm using. I know it might look a little wild, but the reason why I like this formation is because units are very spread out, so they're not gonna be dying as easily to enemy attacks. I don't know if this is the literal best formation in the game, but it's the one I've been using for the last couple of days, and I think it is pretty effective. So definitely pause the video here, take a picture if you want to see what units go where, and then take a picture here of the army page so you guys can see which unit actually correlates to which. But anyways, as you guys have probably seen throughout the video, this setup is very powerful. And what is good about it is good at taking the center, and it's also good at defending the center. I know some of the choices might seem weird, like using the light railgun tank instead of the heavy railgun tank, but oftentimes, just because the unit is the most expensive in the game and is the last one you unlock doesn't necessarily mean it happens to be the best. And what's very good about having all the heavy dust soldiers with the 2 light railgun tanks is they all have around the same movement speed, so they move very quickly towards the center, and then half of your army is going to be ranged with the artillery vehicles and heavy railgun units. So basically, they're gonna stay back and then camp off all the enemies while your heavy death soldiers and light railgun tanks are gonna be running up to the front while still dealing a bunch of damage, but they're also gonna be taking a lot of the enemy incoming damage as well, allowing your ranged units to get a lot of kills. And then where the elite engineer comes in is he's gonna be able to heal all of your vehicles in the center, as well as all of the elite railgunners. He won't be healing any of the biological units unfortunately, but that's where the mortar calls come in. You could always use a healing mortar call to counteract that. It is very effective. Anyways, this isn't a super duper long video. This is just the setup that I like to use nowadays. Let me know down below what you guys think of this setup. If it happens to be trash, let me know. I don't think it is. I messed around with a lot of different builds before landing on this one, and this has a good chance at defeating most armies in a 1v1 because it is very mixed. You're not focusing all on one unit, and it is overall very powerful. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.